Hello, amazing soul. Welcome to Mindset Mastery, your sanctuary for transformation, abundance, and self-empowerment. If you're ready to rewrite your story, shift your energy, and create a life you love, you're in the right place. What if I told you that the most powerful version of yourself isn't built in the spotlight, but in the quiet? That while the world chases noise, your greatest strength grows in silence. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about the art of silent growth. The kind of growth that doesn't need applause, likes, or validation. Because true success isn't about announcing your moves, it's about making them count when no one is watching. There's something magnetic about people who move in silence. They don't broadcast their plans. They don't seek validation at every step. Instead, they focus on the work, relentlessly, quietly, until their success becomes undeniable. This is the essence of stealth mode, the art of working with such discipline and focus that when you finally emerge, people are stunned by what you've accomplished. Think about it. How many times have you shared a goal too soon, only to lose momentum? It happens because announcing our ambitions gives us a false sense of achievement. Our brains release dopamine as if we've already succeeded, reducing the urgency to follow through. But true builders operate differently. They understand that real progress happens in the shadows, away from the noise of opinions and expectations. Consider some of the most transformative figures in history. Nikola Tesla didn't hold press conferences to announce every breakthrough. He locked himself in his lab, obsessed over his work, and let his inventions change the world. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter in near secrecy, facing rejection after rejection before the world ever knew her name. Their success wasn't built on hype, it was built on hours of unseen effort. So how do you apply this? Start by keeping your goals to yourself, not out of fear, but out of strategy. Let your actions, not your words, define your journey. Instead of posting about the business you want to start, spend that time researching, planning, and executing. Instead of telling everyone about your fitness goals, wake up early, train in silence, and let your transformation speak for itself. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself completely. Seek mentors, collaborate with trusted peers, and learn from those ahead of you, but do it with purpose, not for applause. The less you seek attention, the more attention your results will demand. Silent execution also builds resilience. When no one is watching, you're free to fail, adapt, and grow without pressure. You refine your craft without the weight of outside opinions, and when you finally step into the light, you do so with unshakable confidence, because you didn't just talk about success, you put in the work to earn it. The world is loud. Social media rewards those who perform rather than those who produce. But the real winners, they're too busy building to care about being seen. So ask yourself, do you want to be known for what you say you'll do or for what you've actually done? Choose stealth mode. Work like no one is watching, and when you're ready, let your success make all the noise. There's a reason why history's greatest breakthroughs happened in isolation. Michelangelo spent years alone in the Sistine Chapel, lying on his back to paint the ceiling. A masterpiece born from relentless focus. Isaac Newton discovered the laws of motion while secluded during the Great Plague. These weren't just moments of genius, they were testaments to the power of solitude and deep work. In today's world, we've confused busyness with productivity. Notifications, meetings, and endless scrolling have fractured our attention spans. We mistake being reachable for being valuable. But here's the truth. Shallow work creates shallow results. If you want to build something extraordinary, whether it's a business, a skill, or a personal transformation, you must reclaim your ability to focus without interruption. Deep work isn't just about blocking off time, it's about creating sacred space for your mind to operate at its highest level. Think of your brain like a laser. Scattered light has little power, but when concentrated, it can cut through steel. The same applies to your work. 1 hour of undistracted focus can yield more than 8 hours of fractured effort. So how do you cultivate this? Start by ruthlessly eliminating distractions. Turn off notifications. Set boundaries with people who demand instant access to your time. Designate a physical or mental deep work zone, a place where you enter with intention. For some, it's a quiet room at dawn. For others, it's noise-canceling headphones in a busy cafe. The environment matters less than the discipline to protect your focus. Solitude is equally vital. Not loneliness, that's the fear of being alone, but the deliberate choice to sit with your own thoughts. This is where self-awareness grows. This is where you wrestle with problems until solutions emerge. The modern world steals this from us with constant entertainment, but the most profound insights come when you allow your mind to wander without input. Consider this: every major decision, every innovative idea, every personal breakthrough you've ever had likely came when you were alone with your thoughts. Your subconscious mind solves problems when you step away from the noise. That's why showers, long walks, and moments of stillness often bring epiphanies. They create space for your inner genius to speak. The resistance to solitude is natural. At first it feels uncomfortable because we're addicted to stimulation, but like a muscle, your focus strengthens with training. Start small, 30 minutes of deep work daily, then expand. Track your progress, not in hours spent, but in tangible outcomes created. Over time, you'll crave these moments of concentrated effort because you'll see their transformative power. The world will try to pull you into its chaos. It will reward reactivity over depth. But those who change the game, the artists, inventors, and leaders who leave legacies, are those who mastered the art of working deeply while the world distracted itself. Your future self isn't built in committee meetings or group chats. It's forged in the quiet moments when you choose to show up fully present and do the work that matters. So ask yourself, where in your life are you sacrificing depth for the illusion of productivity? The answer is your starting point. Turn inward, focus relentlessly, and watch how the quality of your work and your life transforms. We live in an era where learning has become performative. People post stacks of unread books for aesthetics, share podcast clips they barely absorbed, and curate study aesthetics more than they actually study. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Real knowledge isn't collected for show, it's absorbed for growth. The most dangerous learners are those who acquire wisdom in silence, then deploy it with precision when it matters most. Consider how mastery really works. When a pianist practices scales for 10,000 hours, there's nothing glamorous to post, just repetition until excellence becomes instinct. When a scientist pores over research, there are no viral moments, just incremental breakthroughs that eventually change paradigms. True learning is often tedious, uncomfortable, and invisible. That's exactly why most people avoid its depths, opting instead for the appearance of competence rather than the substance of it. The problem with performative learning is that it tricks our brains. When we share what we plan to learn, we get the dopamine hit of accomplishment without the actual work. Social media has created a generation of motion fakers, people constantly in motion toward growth but never actually arriving. The antidote? Adopt the mindset of a shadow learner. Read books not to list them in your bio, but to let them reshape your thinking. Take courses not to certificate chase, but to gain skills that give you unfair advantages. Study your craft not to impress beginners, but to surpass those ahead of you. This approach requires radical honesty. You must measure your learning not by hours logged or pages highlighted, but by behavioral change. Are you thinking differently? Solving problems faster? Seeing patterns others miss? That's the only metric that matters. History's greatest polymaths, Da Vinci, Franklin, Curie, kept private notebooks filled with observations, questions, and half-formed ideas. Their learning was messy, iterative, and deeply personal. They understood that wisdom compounds in the shadows before it shines in public. Practical steps? Create a no-post learning zone. Dedicate time each day to consume information without an audience. Handwrite notes to deepen retention. Apply concepts immediately through projects or experiments rather than announcements. When you inevitably discover gaps in your knowledge, and you will, lean into the but to become someone whose depth of understanding creates tangible results. There's incredible power in being the most knowledgeable person in the room who never needs to prove it. When you stop performing learning and start embodying it, people will sense the difference. They'll notice how you ask better questions, spot unseen opportunities, and solve complex problems with ease. That quiet authority doesn't come from sharing your reading list. It comes from having actually integrated what you've learned into your nervous system. The marketplace will always reward substance over spectacle. While others are busy curating their growth journey for likes, you'll be making moves that matter. So let them post. Let them perform. You've got work to do, the kind that doesn't need a caption, just results. Because eventually the world notices when someone's knowledge isn't just for show, but for changing the game. Motivation is a fickle friend. It arrives in bursts, lifting you with grand visions of what could be, until life interrupts, distractions multiply, and that fiery inspiration cools to embers. This is where most dreams die, in the gap between inspiration and execution. But those who achieve greatness understand a fundamental truth. Discipline is the bridge between aspiration and reality. While the world chases fleeting motivation, the real builders are crafting unshakable daily rituals that withstand storms of doubt, fatigue, and changing circumstances. Discipline is often misunderstood as deprivation or punishment. In reality, it's the ultimate form of self-respect. A promise you make to your future self that you'll show up even when every excuse begs you to quit. Consider the athlete who trains at 5 a.m. while others sleep, not because they're always energized, but because they've decided who they're committed to be. Think of the writer who produces pages daily, regardless of waiting for inspiration, because they know mastery is forged in the mundane. These aren't acts of suffering. They're investments in a version of yourself that doesn't yet exist, but is being constructed one disciplined day at a time. The magic of discipline lies in its compounding effect. Small, consistent actions, seemingly insignificant in isolation, accumulate into transformations that appear sudden to outsiders. A daily 1% improvement makes you 37 times better in a year, not through dramatic overhauls, but through the quiet power of showing up. This is why discipline thrives in secrecy. It doesn't need an audience to validate its worth. The person meditating every morning, the entrepreneur refining their craft after hours, the student studying while peers socialize, they're all playing a long game that transcends temporary approval. Building this muscle starts with ruthless honesty about your current patterns. Track how you spend your time for 3 days. You'll likely discover pockets of wasted potential that could be redirected toward disciplined growth. Then, implement the 2-day rule. Never let yourself skip important rituals for more than 1 day. Mr. Workout Tuesday? Wednesday is non-negotiable. This creates just enough flexibility to be human while preventing the slippery slope of abandonment. The disciplined mind also masters the art of productive discomfort. It recognizes that resistance, that voice urging you to delay, procrastinate, or take the easier path, is actually a signpost marking the direction of growth. Every time you push through that resistance, you strengthen your discipline like a mental immune system. Over time, what once required Herculean effort becomes second nature. The writer no longer battles to start writing. The runner no longer negotiates with the alarm clock. Their discipline has become identity. Unlike motivation, discipline isn't derailed by bad days. It understands that failure isn't the opposite of success, but part of its curriculum. When you operate from discipline rather than motivation, a missed day doesn't become a reason to quit. It becomes data for refinement. You analyze, adjust, and advance with the precision of a scientist experimenting toward a breakthrough. In a culture obsessed with hacks, shortcuts, and overnight success, discipline is your competitive edge. It's the quiet force that keeps you working when others have given up, that transforms someday into today, that turns dreams from abstract fantasies into lived reality. The most powerful form of self-confidence isn't believing you'll succeed. It's knowing you'll persist regardless. So start small, but start now. Choose one keystone habit, something that will pull other areas of your life upward, and protect it fiercely. Let others rely on the unstable fuel of motivation while you build the nuclear reactor of discipline. Because in the end, the person you become isn't shaped by what you do when you feel like it, but by what you commit to when you don't. And that person, the disciplined version of you waiting to emerge, is capable of extraordinary things. The people around you are either silently lifting you toward excellence or quietly pulling you toward mediocrity, often without either of you realizing it. While society celebrates flashy networks and superficial connections, those who build extraordinary lives understand a deeper truth. Your inner circle's volume is inversely proportional to their impact. The loudest in the room are rarely the most influential. Real growth happens in the company of those too focused on their own journey to advertise it. Consider this: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, not in their proclaimed ambitions, but in their daily habits, work ethic, and private disciplines. The friend who wakes up early to study while others sleep in, the colleague who consistently delivers beyond expectations without fanfare, the mentor who shares wisdom only when asked. These are the quiet forces that shape you at a cellular level. Their influence doesn't announce itself with motivational speeches. It seeps into your behavior through proximity and osmosis. The danger of our hyper-connected age is mistaking visibility for value. Social media has created an illusion that the most active networkers are the most successful, when in reality many high achievers operate in what psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called the hidden world of flow, so immersed in meaningful work that they rarely surface for applause. These are the people you want in your orbit. Those who measure progress in mastery rather than mentions, who derive satisfaction from execution rather than exhibition. Building this circle requires intentionality. Start by auditing your current relationships with one question. After spending time with this person, do I feel energized to create or exhausted by drama? Quiet achievers leave you stimulated, not drained. Their presence sparks ideas, raises your standards, and makes growth feel inevitable. They won't necessarily cheer your every small win. That's what acquaintances are for. But they'll challenge you when you're settling for less than your potential. The magic of this ecosystem is its self-enforcing nature. As you elevate your own standards, you naturally attract higher caliber collaborators. The writer committed to daily practice starts connecting with serious editors. The entrepreneur focused on substance over hype finds mentors who've built real businesses. This isn't networking, it's gravitational pull. Like recognizes like, and competence attracts opportunity in ways no LinkedIn blast ever could. Practical steps: identify 3 people in your life whose quiet discipline inspires you, and deepen those connections with meaningful engagement, not transactional networking. Seek out mastermind groups where members measure value by accountability rather than attendance. Most importantly, become the quiet achiever others want in their circle by focusing on your own work with such intensity that your very presence raises the room's standards. The world will always celebrate the noisy crowd, but history remembers those who move differently. The teams behind moon landings, the research groups making medical breakthroughs, the artists who change culture through craft rather than campaign. Your environment is your invisible curriculum, constantly teaching you what's possible through lived example. Choose teachers who speak through action, not adjectives, because when you surround yourself with those building legacies instead of profiles, something remarkable happens. Your ambitions stop feeling impossible. Their discipline becomes your normal. Their focus feels yours. And one day, you'll look up to realize you've become exactly what you've been surrounded by. Someone whose work speaks so loudly, they never need to. There's an undeniable power in emerging from silence with undeniable results. Imagine the colleague who quietly upskills while others complain, then lands the promotion no one saw coming. The entrepreneur who builds in stealth mode, then unveils a product that redefines the market. These aren't accidents. They're calculated demonstrations of what happens when you replace performance with proof. In an era of premature celebration, the most formidable strategy is this: become a revelation, not an announcement. The psychology behind this approach is profound. Human brains are wired to notice sudden positive changes more than gradual improvements. A phenomenon psychologists call the peak end rule. When you consistently work without fanfare, then reveal transformative results, you create what magicians call the illusion of sudden appearance. Your audience, whether employers, clients, or peers, experiences the satisfying click of recognition without having witnessed the grind that made it possible. This isn't deception. It's allowing people to experience your evolution at its most impactful moment. Consider how master practitioners leverage this principle. Actors who disappear into roles for months emerge with Oscar-worthy transformations. Tech founders avoid press during development, then dominate headlines at product launch. Even nature understands this. Bamboo grows underground for years before shooting up 90 feet in weeks. The common thread? Respect for the incubation period required for exceptional results. Your current silence isn't absence, it's the necessary gestation for what wants to be born through you. This approach requires resisting 2 modern temptations: the need for constant validation and the fear of being overlooked. Validation seeking is the dream killer. It trades long-term potential for short-term applause. The fear of being overlooked is equally dangerous, pressuring premature reveals that dilute your impact. The antidote is what Navy SEALs call quiet professionalism, letting your work reach such undeniable quality that recognition becomes inevitable rather than begged for. Strategic revelation also protects your most valuable asset, creative freedom. When you build without an audience, you're free to pivot, fail, and experiment without public scrutiny. The writer can scrap entire chapters, the developer can rebuild code, the artist can destroy canvases. This private laboratory of iteration is where breakthroughs happen, precisely because no one's watching. Compare this to those who share half-baked ideas publicly, then find themselves trapped by early expectations and opinions. The business case for this approach is equally compelling. In venture capital, the most sought-after founders are often those who've been quietly building demonstrable traction rather than pitching at every networking event. In creative fields, the mysterious newcomer with a polished portfolio commands more respect than the chronic oversharer. Even in personal growth, the colleague whose sudden expertise seems overnight but was actually years in the making earns deeper admiration than the perpetual talker. Implementation begins with a simple mindset shift. View your current obscurity as an advantage, not a limitation. Every unobserved moment is an opportunity to develop your unfair advantage. Track progress through private metrics, skills mastered, revenue growth, audience depth, rather than public validation. Most importantly, cultivate the discipline to withhold your reveal until it carries maximum impact, whether that's a career move, product launch, or personal transformation. When you master this art, something beautiful happens. Your achievements land with the satisfying weight of inevitability, rather than the hollow ring of self-promotion. People lean in, wondering how you did it. Opportunities find you, and perhaps most importantly, you develop the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth, doesn't depend on constant acknowledgement, but on the objective value you've cultivated in the dark. The world is full of people shouting about what they'll do. Be the exception, the one who demonstrates what's possible when potential meets patience. Let them wonder how you got there. Your success will speak volumes in the silence you've mastered. So I ask you today, will you choose the noise of approval or the power of silent growth? Because the truth is, you don't need an audience to become great. You just need you, your discipline, and the courage to keep going when no one is clapping. Build yourself quietly, and when you're ready, the world won't just hear you, it will stop and listen. Now go, start today, and let your success tell the story. Thank you.